I cannot believe that I've been using this technique without even realizing it for more than a decade with my younger brother. And this is the same technique that has been helping me for last 10 years to understand and retain 90% of the new things that I've been learning on everyday basis. Growing up, I was naturally good in mathematics and my grades were kind of evidence for that. It used to be my mom's utter passion that I should help my younger brother to improve his mathematics grades as well. She even used to bribe me with an annual present if I managed to increase his grades in mathematics. But little did I know, by helping my younger brothers, I was helping my future self to learn this important technique which is going to be helpful for my whole life. I carry forward this same habit in my Bachelor's of Engineering days as well, where a few weeks before the exam I used to gather all of my friends at my house and I used to help them with their mathematics. They will come with all of their doubts across the year and then I will help them to resolve all of those doubts and help them improve their mathematics grades as well. We can even take the examples of the video I make for you on this channel. For example, in order to make just one video, I have to go through some knowledge articles, I have to read some books, I have to go through the notes I have been collecting from last 5 years, I have to go through all the student questions I'm getting, and through this knowledge, I'll generate some strategies or technique. Then the next step is I will put those strategies and technique in practice so that I have to see whether they really work or not. And once after all this due diligence is done, then I will be able to demonstrate that through this video. So how it's helping me? It is helping me by demonstrating practice and going deeper into those concepts so that I'll be able to talk confidently in front of the camera and able to teach them. Now I'm going to explain this retention technique step by step to you on the whiteboard in just a second. So let's understand this magical technique of knowledge retention and how to go from 5% retention to 90%. This was developed as a cone of learning from an American professor and author Edgar Dale in 1946. So we can say that this cone has been in action for almost a century for people all over the world. I personally like to call it as a cone of knowledge retention because it helps us understand how to go from only 5% retention to 90% retention. So the first part of this cone is listening. Imagine you watch a complete video of mine where I talk about how to be a confident communicator and you don't take any further action after watching this video. While I tell you how to become a confident communicator, you are resonating with it, you're nodding, you go to sleep, the next morning you wake up, you've forgotten everything. So what it means is you can only retain 5% of the things you learn just by listening to it. So there is a net loss of 95%. The next step is reading. When you read a book or when you read an article about how to be a confident communicator, you can only retain 10% of it. So there is a 90% loss in reading process. Now the interesting part is when you combine these two things, listening and reading, the retention goes to double. So when you read and listen in an audio visual format, you manage to retain 20% of the knowledge. Isn't that interesting? Just combining those first two skills, listening and reading, it makes you double the retention. But there is still 80% loss. Interestingly, a lot of people just stop here in this day and age. They are constantly sucking in knowledge from social media, from watching all the podcasts, from reading all the things around the world. They're always into this brain dump, just dumping everything on the brain. Effectively, they're only retaining 20% of the things they are learning, losing 80% of it. This is where knowledge is passive. You're just borrowing knowledge from some other person and you're just retaining 20% of it in your own brain. Now things get interesting when you move in this cone. When you start to change that passive knowledge into active knowledge. The next step is demonstrating. So when you demonstrate something, maybe when you watch my video, you try to demonstrate the skill I'm talking about. When I say that you should always pause before answering a question, or you should always taking frequent pauses when you speak so that the person will get some time to resonate with your ideas. You start to demonstrate that in a meeting, in a video, or anywhere. So that's the first step to change that passive knowledge into an active knowledge. This is where you will change 30%. When you discuss the stuff I talk about in my video, you will retain 50% of it. Imagine if you watch my video of how to be a confident communicator and you discuss that with your friend, with your younger brother, with your family. This is what it's called brainstorming. This will help you to retain 50% of the things that you have learned. This is discussion. 50% retention, only 50% loss. So you're seeing that how if you change those habits of retaining the knowledge, it will drastically improve your retention. Next is practicing. When you try to move one step beyond just discussion and try to practice the things that you learn in everyday life. The greatest example is you try to introduce yourself in a different way. You try to take frequent pauses. You try to reduce the speed of talking. You give other people a chance to understand and listen to what you're saying. This is where you will learn 70% of retention. So you see how the drop is massive here. 70% retention and only 30% drop in the things you have learned. Now the holy grail of this cone is teaching, which gives you 90% of the retention and only 10% loss. What I mean by that is whatever you learn from my video, you try to teach it to your friend, your family member, to your younger brother, or to anyone. And if you don't have anyone, try to make a video about it, try to write a blog post. This will help you understand that topic in much deeper sense. This is the exact thing I do on this video series as well. In order for me to teach a concept through this video, I have to do a deep research on that concept, strategies, technique, or anything. It helps me understand that technique in much deeper sense. So next time you want to retain 90% of something you learn, you try to teach that to somebody who have no idea about it. You will also learn how to explain that concept in simple words. So your next task is this cone of learning or cone of retention. You try to help somebody else who have no idea about this cone and try to explain them through using my video. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.